The auction of desperation. The twin suns of planet Draveth burned hot in the sky. The slave market buzzed with cruel excitement. Alien traders shouted, laughed, and placed bets on the new arrivals. On a raised metal platform stood a tall, thin alien woman with glowing silver skin and violet eyes. Her body was weak, her hands trembling. In her arms, she held a small child wrapped in torn cloth. The child's eyes were half shut, and his breathing was shallow. Her name was Zarali, once a noble on her homeworld, now standing as a slave. Silent, broken, and desperate. The auctioneer, a thick-skinned alien with yellow tusks, shouted into the crowd, "Pure-blood Zyran female, with a hybrid child. Strong bones, still able to work. Let's start the bidding," the crowd murmured. Some aliens laughed. Some looked away in disgust. A hybrid child was not valuable. Some saw it as dirty blood. Others thought it bad luck. 10. "Credits," a hairy alien shouted. "I'll put her in the mines." 15, said a short reptilian trader. "She can be used as bait for wild beasts." Zarali didn't react. She was used to this. She had heard worse. She only looked at her child. His skin was pale. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. "Please, just live," she thought. The auctioneer looked annoyed. "No serious offers? She may be weak, but she can still breed." Some in the crowd laughed. Others walked away. Then a calm voice spoke. 25 credits. Everyone turned. At the edge of the crowd stood a human. Tall, dusty, wearing black armor. His face was plain, but his eyes were cold and serious. He had no expression. He didn't even look at Zarali. The auctioneer blinked. "You? Human? You want this one?" The man nodded once. 25. Final offer. The auctioneer laughed. "Sold to the strange human with strange taste." Some aliens chuckled. Others shrugged. Zarali was pushed off the platform. She nearly fell, but kept her child close. Her knees shook as she walked toward the human. She didn't speak. Neither did he. They walked through the dry streets, past broken machines and shouting traders toward the spaceport. Zarali kept her head down. Her child whimpered quietly. The human led her to a small ship. Not shiny, not big, just a working ship, clean and simple. He opened the ramp and let her walk inside first. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. Zarali stood still, afraid. The human walked past her and pointed to a small room. "You can stay in there," he said. Inside was a bed, a sink, and a drawer. She waited. He didn't touch her. He didn't even look at her. Instead, he walked to a cabinet, took out a sealed food box and placed it on the table. "Eat. Feed the child first," he said. "There's more food if needed." Zarali slowly opened the box. Inside were soft bread, fruit, and a protein bar. Real food. Clean food. Not rotten trash. She fed. The child first. He ate slowly, carefully. His eyes opened more. He moved his hands. He was alive. She felt something in her chest, a tightness, a warmth. She almost cried, but didn't. The human watched from the doorway. He said nothing. After a moment, she asked in a weak voice, "You don't want anything?" He shook his head. "I already paid." She looked confused. "Then why buy me?" He didn't answer right away. He looked at her, really looked, and said quietly, "No one should be sold for love." That night, Zarali sat on the floor beside the bed. Her child slept peacefully for the first time in days. She didn't lie down. She didn't trust the bed yet. She kept watching the door, waiting for the man to return and change his mind, waiting for the pain to come. But he didn't return. He never came into the room again that night, and for the first time in a long, long time, nothing hurt, only silence, only peace. Zarali looked down at her child. Maybe, just maybe, this human wasn't like the others. Maybe he didn't want to use her. Maybe he was different. A warm bed and a locked door. Zarali had slept in many places before. Cold cages, dark basements, and the dirty floors of crowded ships. She had learned never to close both eyes, never to rest too deep. That's why she didn't trust the silence of this new room. The bed was clean. The lights were soft. There was even a folded blanket at the edge. But she didn't sit. She stood. In the corner, her child wrapped in cloth, still too weak to cry. The human had left her there without a word. The door had closed with a soft click, and locked. She froze. Was this just another prison? Minutes passed. Then an hour. No footsteps. No shouting. No orders. Just silence. Zarali looked down at her child. He was warm now, his breathing steady. The food had helped. He had even smiled, just a little, before falling asleep. She placed him gently on the bed and walked to the drawer. Inside were 2 sealed food packs, a small bottle of clean water, and a soft cloth toy that looked like a bear. With 6 arms, she stared at it for a long time. No one had given her a toy before, not even when she was a noble. It was useless to nobles, but here it was, for her son. She whispered, "Why?" The next sound she heard wasn't boots or metal. It was the soft buzz of a speaker. A voice, his voice, came through. "You can shower if you want. Hot water lasts 10 minutes. You'll find fresh clothes in the locker." She didn't respond, just listened. Then the voice said, "I'll check on you later. You're safe here." She waited. Hours. Still, no one came. She placed the toy next, to her sleeping child, and walked to the sink. The water ran clear. She washed her hands, her face, her arms. She looked at herself in the mirror. Hollow eyes, rough skin, scars that never healed. But her eyes were still glowing violet, still alive. That night, her son woke with a soft cry. Zarali tried to calm him, rocking him in her arms, but he was hungry again. The food packs were gone. Before she could move, the door slid open. She jumped back, shielding her child. It was him, Rain. He didn't enter fast, didn't shout. He held out a small thermos. "Warm milk substitute, human-made, it's safe." Zarali didn't take it, he didn't force her. He placed the bottle gently on the floor. "If he needs more, call the speaker, I'll bring it." Then he turned. "Wait," she said quietly. He stopped. "You haven't asked me anything," she said. "No name, no story, nothing." Rain looked over his shoulder. "You've had too many people ask, and none of them listened." He walked away. The door stayed open this time. Zarali stood in that open doorway for a long time, holding the bottle in one hand and her child in the other. No chains, no threats, no hands grabbing her. Only air, only space, only quiet. She fed her son, and, as he drifted off to sleep, full and warm, she lay beside him on the bed. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to breathe. And in a whisper, almost like a secret she was afraid to say aloud, she spoke. "Maybe. He really doesn't want anything from me." A woman with scars. The next morning, sunlight from a nearby star warmed the ship's window. Zarali woke slowly, her child curled beside her, breathing soft and safe. It still felt unreal. Quiet, food, warmth, no chains. She sat at the edge of the bed, holding her son's hand. That's when she saw it. A small folded note by the door. She opened it. "I'll be in the control room if you feel ready to talk. No pressure. No questions you don't want to answer. Rain." She held the note for a long time. No one had ever asked if she wanted to talk before. Most just took. Hours passed. Her child was sleeping again, so she walked to the front of the ship. Rain sat alone at the cockpit, checking star maps. He heard her footsteps, but didn't turn around. She stood behind him, silent. Then finally said, "You didn't ask my name. I figured you'd tell me when you were ready." She nodded slowly. "My name is Zarali." He looked over his shoulder. "Zarali. Beautiful name, She stared at the stars on the screen, and for the first time in years, she started to tell her story. I wasn't born poor, she said. I was born in gold towers on Zirin Prime. I was supposed to be important. She spoke slowly, like pulling knives from her chest. My people. They value bloodlines, perfect genetics, pure class. She laughed, bitter. I was a star scribe, I could write light. I spoke the ancient songs, I had nobles come to hear me sing. Rain said nothing, just listened. Then I met someone. A miner. Not noble. Not clean blood. But kind. So kind. She swallowed hard. I married him in secret. We had a child. My people found out. Called it betrayal. Her voice cracked. They erased my name. Burned my records. Said my blood was dirty now. I lost everything. Status, home, voice. Rain turned his chair slightly. Still quiet. Still respectful. They tried to take my son. I ran. We hid. Then he died. My husband. A cave collapse. I had nothing. No food. No help. No name. She held her arms around herself like a shield. I became invisible. Rain didn't say, I'm sorry. He didn't pretend to understand. Instead, he said the only thing that mattered. You kept your child alive. That matters more than any bloodline. She blinked. No one had ever said that. Not once. There was silence between them now, but it wasn't heavy. It was soft, healing. She sat down on the floor near his chair, back against the wall. I have scars, she whispered. Rain nodded. So do I. He took off one glove and showed a rough burn along his hand. War. Stupid mission. Saved a kid. Got burned. Worth it. She reached for her own sleeve, pulled it back slowly, thin marks, across her forearm, her back, her wrists. They punished me every time I said no, she said softly. Rain didn't flinch. He didn't stare. He just said, these are not shame. These are survival. The ship's lights dimmed to night mode. Her child cried softly from the cabin. Zarely stood. I should go. As she turned, Rain said one more thing. Zarely. She looked back. You were someone, he said. You still are. That night, Zarely didn't cry. She didn't need to, because for the first time in forever, someone had finally seen her, not as a slave, not as a name, not as a shame, but as a woman with strength, a mother with fire, and maybe a heart ready to trust again. Trouble follows for the first time in weeks. Zarely smiled. It was small, soft, almost invisible, but it was real. Her son was healthy now. He laughed when she tickled him. His skin had color again. He slept in peace. No hunger, no fear. And Rain. He had become more than just a strange human. He had become her protector, her listener, her hope. But peace never stays long in a galaxy built on fear. It started with a strange silence. Rain sat at the control panel, eyes scanning the radar screen. His hand moved slowly, carefully. Zarely entered the room holding her son. What's wrong? Rain didn't look at her. He tapped the screen. Unmarked ship. No signal. No ID. It's been following us for 2 hours. Zarely's blood turned cold. Bounty hunters? She whispered. Rain nodded once. Most likely. Zarely backed away, holding her child close. I thought we were safe. We were, Rain said calmly, until someone put a high enough price on a mixed-blood child. Her voice cracked. They don't want to take him. They want to erase him. He's a shame to their system. Rain stood slowly and walked to a wall panel. He pressed his hand to a hidden scanner. The wall opened, revealing a small cabinet of human weapons. Old, illegal, dangerous. Zarely stepped back. You're not just a traitor, are you? Rain loaded a pulse cannon. No, he said. I used to be a soldier, then a smuggler. Now, I'm whatever he needs me to be. Outside, the bounty ship locked on. Inside, Rain pushed Zarali gently toward the back chamber. Seal yourself in. Take the emergency capsule. Stay locked until I say it's safe. She grabbed his arm. No, don't fight them alone. He looked at her, eyes calm, hard, gentle. I promised I'd protect you. That's not just words. She stared at him, heart pounding, and nodded. The sky lit up. A warning shot grazed their left wing. Rain cursed under his breath and spun the ship downward. His hands moved fast. He slid between asteroid clusters, forcing the bounty ship to slow. But they had better tech. They were catching up. He pressed a button near the seat. Zarali, capsule ready? Her voice came through. We're in, safe. Good, he said, then smiled, and hit the trap switch. Two hidden cannons folded out from the ship's sides. Earth-made, old-style, no AI, pure muscle. Rain swung the ship around, facing the bounty ship head-on. He waited until they came close. Too close. Then, he fired. The first cannon hit their engine. The second hit their wing. The bounty ship shook. Fire exploded. In the sky, one pod escaped. One pilot fled. The rest was dust. Inside, Zarali sat in the small emergency chamber, holding her son tightly. Then she heard Rain's voice on the speaker. It's over. She ran to the cockpit, her son still in her arms. Rain was sitting calmly, breathing heavy, hands on the controls. He looked tired. She walked to him, stood silently, then did something she hadn't done in years. She placed her hand over his. Thank you, she said. He nodded. They won't be the last. She looked up. Then I won't run again. That night she didn't sleep in fear. She slept beside a man who had faced fire for her, and for the first time in her life. She felt like she was no longer just someone to protect. She was someone who could stand and fight with him. The marriage pact. The sky was calm again. The bounty ship was gone. But Rain wasn't smiling. He stared at his console, reading a glowing screen with cold eyes. Zarali walked in, holding her son. What's wrong now? He looked up slowly. We have a new problem. A message had come through, encrypted, official, from the Galactic Union Council. A cold voice echoed from the speaker. The hybrid child you carry is genetically illegal. He does not belong to any recognized species class. Surrender him for evaluation or face arrest. Zarali's knees went weak. She sat down slowly, her baby wrapped tight in her arms. They'll kill him, she said. They always do. Quietly. Legally. Rain didn't respond. He was already searching through old Interstellar law codes. His fingers tapped fast across the screen. Finally, he stopped. His eyes narrowed. There's a loophole, he said. Zarali looked at him. What kind of loophole? He turned the screen toward her. In case of cross-species offspring, if the child is legally bonded to a dual citizen parental unit through interspecies marriage, the child shall be granted protection under both species law. She blinked. You mean? He nodded once. We get married on paper. Right now. Zarali stood frozen. You're serious? Yes. Isn't that extreme? Rain leaned forward. This isn't about love, Zarali. It's about survival. She looked down at her son. His little hand was grabbing her fingers. What kind of marriage is this? He replied. One that keeps him alive. She laughed softly, bitterly. I used to dream of weddings. Music, stars, silk robes. Now it's legal protection. Rain looked her straight in the eyes. No ceremony, no promises. Just one line. He opened a digital form. 2 boxes blinked. Partner A. Rain, partner. B. Zarali. A single button below, confirm union. She stared at it, then tapped it. Later that night, Zarali stood by the window, holding her son. She watched the stars, feeling nothing. Everything. Her name was now legally linked to a human man. Her child was safe for now. But why did her chest feel tight? Footsteps approached. It was Rain. She didn't turn. She spoke softly. You didn't have to do this. Yes, I did, he said. She turned now. Not angry, not grateful, just confused. This wasn't part of your mission. You could have left us. Rain looked tired. I'm not on a mission anymore. Then what are you doing? He gave a small smile. Trying to be the man I promised I would be. She walked to him slowly. Do you regret it? No, he said without pause. Not even a little? Rain shook his head. I'd marry you again if it meant he'd stay free. Zarali's breath caught in her throat. Then she stepped closer, close enough to feel his breath. Even if this started as paper, it doesn't feel fake anymore, she whispered. He didn't answer. She reached up and touched his face, then kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't part of any contract. It was soft, quiet, real. That night, she didn't sleep alone. And the child who once cried himself to sleep now rested between two people who had become more than survivors. They were becoming a family. The festival of Fire the Planet Alara 4 was quiet and cold, but once every cycle, it came to life. Lights, music, fire in the sky. It was called the Festival of Fire, a human tradition to honor rebirth, to celebrate survival, and to light the night for those who lived through the dark. Rain brought Zarali and her son there. He didn't explain why. He just said, You've lived in shadows too long. Maybe it's time to stand in light. Zarali didn't know what to wear. She only had 3 changes of clothes, all plain. But when she returned to the ship's sleeping pod that evening, something lay on the bed. A dress. Simple, flowing, soft, blue, almost like starlight. She touched it carefully. A note lay beside it. It's not silk from your noble days, but I thought it might make you feel like yourself again. She held the fabric to her chest, then slowly smiled. The village square was glowing with lanterns. Children danced between floating fire balloons. Music played, an old earth tune full of strings and warm drums. Zarali stepped in quietly, holding her son. Rain walked beside her in dark clothing, clean and quiet. People looked at her, her silver skin, her violet eyes, her mixed blood child. But no one shouted. No one laughed. They just nodded. Some smiled. And for the first time in her life, strangers didn't see her as a threat. They saw a mother. An old woman walked up to Rain. She wore a long red scarf and held a glowing lantern. She looked Zarali up and down. Is that your wife? She asked. Rain blinked. Zarali opened her mouth to explain, but stopped. Rain spoke first. Yes, she is. The old woman smiled. You're lucky. She's beautiful. Then she handed Zarali the lantern. For the fire dance, she said. It's tradition for couples. Zarali had never danced. Not like this. Rain stood in front of her in the center of the circle as music began. She was about to say no when he extended his hand. You don't have to be perfect, he said. Just be here. She took his hand. They danced slowly, awkwardly at first. But then, something changed. She laughed. Really laughed. He did too. People around them clapped and cheered. The lanterns rose higher. Zarali forgot about the past. She forgot the pain. All she felt was his hand in hers, and their child laughing from the edge of the circle. After the dance, they sat alone on a small hill, watching fire streak across the night sky. Their son lay curled between them, fast asleep. Zarali turned to Rain. Why did you say I was your wife? He shrugged. Because that's what they saw. And I didn't want to correct them. But it's not real, she whispered. He looked at her softly. Isn't it? She blinked. He leaned closer. I didn't marry you because I had to, he said. I stayed married because I wanted to. She felt something tighten in her chest. Then, melt, She touched his face and kissed him. This time not as a shield, not as a thank you, but as herself. That night, under falling fire stars, two people who once had nothing shared something priceless, a truth with no law, a love with no contract, just light, just warmth, just home. From property to partner, the stars above Ziran Prime shimmered like ice. Below, a silent shuttle descended. Inside sat 3 passengers, a human soldier, a silver-skinned alien woman, and their child. Zarali looked through the window at the place, where it had all started. The city was still made of tall golden towers and walking shadows. Her heart tightened. "This is where they erased me," she whispered. Rain sat beside her, calm as ever. "Then it's the right place to make them remember." 3 days earlier, Zarali received a message, coded old dialect. Not from bounty, hunters or slavers, from the Ziran High Assembly. They had discovered that the mixed-blood child still lived, and now after her sudden legal marriage to a human, they were curious. Curious enough to request her presence. Formally, Rain was ready to ignore it, but Zarali wasn't. "If we run," she said, "they'll always chase our son." "But if we go back," Rain asked, "will they listen?" Zarali had looked, down at her son sleeping peacefully in her arms. "Maybe not," she said, "but this time I have a voice again." The Capitol Hall of the High Assembly was cold and shining. Nobles floated on silver platforms dressed in glowing robes, looking down at her like she was dirt, like nothing had changed. One of them, a sharp-faced male with gold eyes, spoke first. "Zarali, you dare return?" "I was summoned," she said evenly. "You stand before us with a human," another hissed, "and a half-blooded child. What do you want?" Zarali didn't answer immediately. She pulled out a data crystal. "The truth," she said. "I've filed for public trial." Gasps echoed. "A trial? You have no name in our system?" "I have one now," she said, turning her eyes toward Rain. "And Earth law recognizes it." It was rare for the High Assembly to hold a public hearing for an exile, but Zarali had triggered something bigger than herself: interplanetary politics and human involvement. Inside the trial chamber, hundreds watched: nobles, outsiders, media. Her son sat beside her, quietly drawing on a datapad. Rain stood behind her like a silent mountain. The council spoke. "You abandoned your caste. You bred with impure blood. You birthed a hybrid and hid him." Zarali stood up. "Wrong," she said. "I was cast out because I loved someone not born into your towers. I survived because a stranger showed me more kindness than any of you ever did." They laughed. "A slave speaks of kindness?" Rain stepped forward, placing a small object on the table, a recording chip. It played back voices, proof of bounty, hunters sent by noble command, proof of illegal child-targeting programs. The room fell silent. Then Zarali began to speak. Not in common, not in trade language. In star script. Her voice shimmered. Her words danced in the air like glowing patterns. She told her story, of love, of exile, of hiding in shadows, of chains and starvation, of buying herself back with nothing but pride. Her voice shook but never broke, and then she ended with words that echoed through the entire chamber. "He bought me, but he never touched me. He married me, but never controlled me. He saved me, but never silenced me. And that is why I love him, not for what he gave me, but for what he let me become again." The council was silent. Some looked away, others whispered. Then the oldest among them finally spoke. "What is it you want?" "Zarali," she lifted her child in her arms, "erase my exile, recognize my son, and write my name back into the stars." Rain added, "Or Earth will handle this through its courts, and you will lose more than honor." The council murmured. A legal fight with Earth could destroy old treaties. After a long pause, the old one nodded. "So it is done." Zarali didn't cry as the clerk typed her name back into the registry of Ziran citizens, but her hands shook, and Rain took one of them, tightly. The record now showed Zarali Verethka, Starscribe survivor, bonded partner, Rain Calver, offspring, dual citizen protected under interstellar law. For the first time in years, she wasn't invisible, she was known. Back on the ship, their son asleep again, Zarali leaned against Rain's shoulder. "They never said sorry," she whispered. Rain smirked. "They never will. But they listened. Because you made them." She looked up at him. "Do you regret it?" Rain shook his head. "Not even 1 second." She kissed him then, soft, slow, without fear. "Neither do I," she whispered. Weeks later, Zarali opened a voice journal, her first since exile. She spoke softly. "I was property. Bought, sold, ignored. Then a human gave me a room. Not a cage. Food. Not orders. A name. Not a number. And slowly I became more than a mother running from shadows. I became someone who could stand tall again. Someone who could love. Someone who could choose. I was property. Now, I am partner." The end.